So in our recent videos, we've been removing ink from magic cards by using acetone. What better for a forest than doing a monster emblem? Whenever it comes to selecting what kind of land you want to use for removing the ink from, I prefer to use darker cards just because they don't shine that good on their own. Plus, whenever you remove the ink from it, it's a lot more apparent whenever you start with a darker card. So the two cards I got in front of you here, both of them were fresh out of the pack whenever I got them. Haven't played with either one, but not everything's mint whenever you get it. It's important to inspect whatever card you're going to use very thoroughly. Lean it back and forth in the light, look for any imperfections. In this one you can see a few dots and some scrubs that will show through heavily once we start removing the ink. Now what I'm going to be using is actually the monster can itself. Whenever you try to print out a logo or anything, it's not going to work as well because you can't peel the tape back off of paper. The can you can cut against. Just be sure whenever you're doing it, it's a lot easier if you use two different knives, because the aluminum cutting against the metal is going to destroy a knife blade really fast, and you can keep a clean edge just by having a second blade. Once you have the logo removed from the can, I use just a cheap clipboard. Makes for a good cutting surface. And take your logo and tape it down. Doesn't really matter if the tape goes over the logo because you're cutting against it, peeling it away anyways. It's just to make sure it doesn't move when you're trying to cut your emblem. So on this clipboard you'll see I already have two on the other side. The reason I've got 3 logos is just to try to make the video go a little bit faster. I would typically do it all on one logo, just reusing it. So I'm going to use much wider tape, just packing tape, nothing special. And I'm going to cover the logo. On the other two I already have the left and right side cut out. And so I guess it's a good time to answer the question, why don't I cut the logo out in one piece? The reason I do not cut the logo out in one piece is because I've tried it in the past. Anytime you're dealing with something that intricate, it's hard enough to peel and then lay back down just the one claw onto the card. Trying to do all 3 is nearly impossible and takes forever. It's a lot faster if you just do the claws individually, erasing them one at a time. So what you want to try to do whenever you're doing your cuts is you want to do as long of a cut as you possibly can. Pick up your knife as few times as possible. If you're able to do one side of a claw in one cut, the other side in one cut, then it'll make it a lot easier to peel your tape up. If you're picking your knife up 20 times when you're going down the side, that's 20 opportunities for your tape to peel apart. Okay, so that is our claw cut out. So bring out the card we're intending to use and we'll remove our tape. Just take your time removing the tape because it will try to tear across the claw. I did end up tearing the claw apart. That's why you definitely don't ever want to bother trying to do the whole emblem in one shot, because even though I tore it apart, I can put it all onto the card and still use it. When you try to do the entire emblem at one time, good luck matching that back up. So just to make it a little bit easier to lay down, go ahead and tear the claw the rest of the way apart. Now I've messed up at this enough times that I know that'll work out just fine. One little word of advice, whenever you do end up having to tear your emblem apart to get it to lay down, just anywhere you have a seam, go across it with a piece of tape. And be sure to just get it pushed down really well. And now all we're going to do is the process you've been seeing. That is my acetone, and here are my cotton balls. However, with it being a more intricate design, lots of curves close to the tape, I'm going to be doing most of it around the points with Q-tips, but I will go ahead and knock the bulk of the straight line out with the cotton balls. Okay, there's probably about all I really want to risk doing with the cotton balls. So now we'll get into the more detail with the Q-tips. And that is the first claw done. Let's go ahead and remove our tape. So now we'll take our card, reset, and go ahead and remove the next stripe. So you already know the process of how to remove the ink, so I went ahead and took the second stripe off. Now I was just going to show whenever it comes to matching up to put down your claw marks, it doesn't really matter how many tries you have at it. Tape is not going to damage the card in any way. You're fine to retry as many times as it takes to get it to line up. So you saw the way I laid the first one down. I'm just going to peel off my last and final stripe. We'll get it attached to the card, and we'll be set to remove the ink. So as you're seeing, it's quite common that I tear the logo. Hopefully you have better luck, but I've torn it so many times, I've learned how to put it back together without much issue. So the important thing you want to do whenever trying to figure out where it goes is just have a logo close. So the tiny piece for last. This one, once it splits this way, it's easier to go ahead and tear into the two sides, just because there's no real reference at that point on how to lay it down. So you got the card, you got the pieces, you just got to start matching up where they go. I know the third claw needs to be a little bit lower than the middle claw. So that's the peak down. And in comparing to my design, that's actually pretty accurate on the first try. So being that I got that, I'm going to go ahead and tape the card down. Now all I have to do is use the two sides and match up to the top piece I just put on. I know it's hard to see where the tape is on the card, but whenever you're doing it yourself, it'll make good sense. That's why you always keep the logo there just to refer back to. And just since it is such a small gap right here, as you'll see in the emblem, claw 1 does touch claw 2. Claw 2 doesn't touch claw 3, but it's a very tiny margin. In order to keep that part accurate, we're going to throw some tape there just to reassure that no bleeding happens and they connect. So the first time whenever you go to do the more intricate work, I would recommend using Q-tips the entire time. As you become more comfortable with it, feel free to use the cotton ball. Just be sure whenever you start using the cotton ball on intricate work that you dry even more often than you have been previously. The Q-tip, just count to 5. And there you go, nothing particularly new. The same processes I taught you in previous videos. Just now the only difference is we chose to cut our tape so that it wouldn't be a straight line that we were working with. and we put a monster logo onto a Magic card. You can do this with any design you're interested in doing. Just remember, the more intricate the design is, the more time consuming it will be to get it off of the card. And now, whenever you look at the finished product here, we got a little bit of glue attached to the card still. On the foil area, the glue doesn't really stick to the ink. You can remove that very easily with a little bit of acetone on a Q-tip. And we'll just go ahead and clean up the card some. Since it is cleanup work, you do need to bring out your Q-tip. You don't want it to go any further than just picking up this glue we got here. No need to dry it because the Q-tip's already pretty dry. Here's the finished product. We'll spend some more time cleaning it up a little bit, but there you go. That is the monster emblem on a land.